It's always a shame to finish a game, whether it's a long-winding RPG or a short but sweet first-person shooter, only for things to just end. Not all abrupt endings are terrible, see The Last of Us, but some stand out as offering an underwhelming payoff as opposed to a strong emotional finish. Let's take a look at 15 of these endings here. And spoilers abound for recent games like Rage 2 and Gears 5, so you've been warned. Rage 2. For all intents and purposes, Rage 2's story is stupidly simple. You meet the members of Project Dagger, fight General Cross, and corrupt him with a virus that prevents more of his clones being made. The virus happens to be lethal to Walker, the protagonist as well, but lo and behold, his friend Lily saves him. There's a rendezvous with the Project Dagger members again, and that's it. It's not a terrible cliffhanger like Rage 1, but that's not saying much. Borderlands 1. Our favorite anticlimactic ending of all time. The vault is hyped up as full of treasures, but huzzah, you arrive only to battle a horrifying monster called the Destroyer. Slay the Destroyer, or part of it, and you get garbage as a reward. We then cut to a Hyperion satellite, revealed in the sequel as Handsome Jack's ploy, and a claptrap robot being activated for some DLC. Disappointing doesn't even begin to cover it. Limbo. Playdead's Limbo is more about the journey than the end. A nameless boy is looking for his sister, running from a giant spider and hostile humans in purgatory. Interestingly, the boy makes his way to the cityscape and then eventually back to the forest to find her. As the girl notices him, she's startled and the game cuts to black. What does it mean? Have they truly been reunited? Is this more or less confusing than Inside's ending? You decide. Half-Life 2 Episode 2. Valve is the master of abrupt endings. Half-Life 1 ended with Gordon Freeman accepting the G-Man's offer after a harrowing journey. Half-Life 2 saw the Citadel destroyed and Gordon placed back into stasis by the G-Man. However, Episode 2 is perhaps the worst. After the rocket is launched, closing off the Combine's portal and preventing reinforcements from coming in, two advisors attack the group of Gordon, Alex, and Eli Vance. Eli dies in the encounter and Alex cries over her body. What a perfect time to end the game, right? Right? Dark Souls. When Dark Souls first launched, it was a fateful experience. The narrative was bolstered by a hefty amount of environmental storytelling, so there was a lot of nuances that could be lost on the player. That being said, regardless of how much attention you gave the plot, the game only ended in two ways: by linking the First Flame or not linking it, causing the Age of Dark. There was a short scene showcasing those actions, and then the game just ended with no further exposition. We didn't know the endless cycle that would beget the franchise until later, making this a fairly abrupt end to so much struggle. Fury staying with the song. Fury sees the mysterious writer venturing through a prison of increasingly tougher bosses, seeking escape. So when you encounter the song and are told to stay with her in a beautiful garden, you're probably tempted to accept. Little did you know that you can actually settle down just by waiting a few minutes. Is there some grand betrayal that awaits? Well, no, the game just ends with the credits and the on-screen text saying you chose a peaceful resolution. No Man's Sky. One of the many reasons No Man's Sky received flack was for the mysterious center of the universe. What could possibly be at the center? We were told it would take some time to reach there. Unfortunately, there was nothing. The story restarted instead, even if you followed the Atlas quest. Granted, this would play into the overarching story down the line, but initially, it was just another disappointment to add to the list. Destiny. One of the all-time terrible endings. Destiny sees the players traveling to the Black Garden to defeat the Heart of Darkness or some such idiocy. Defeat the Heart, which will bring you back to Mars. Cool, now go back to the tower where the speaker dribbles on about not being afraid. Then the stranger shows up, gives you a gun, says all endings are beginnings, and disappears. Yes, she didn't even take the time to explain what she didn't have the time to explain earlier because there was no time to explain. Just fantastic. Layers of Fear. The artist in Layers of Fear is fairly deranged, having neglected his wife and child. Heck, it's implied that after his wife committed suicide, he took 6 of her body parts to create his masterpiece. Depending on your actions in-game, you could get 3 different endings, but the endless loop is arguably the lamest. The artist paints his wife's portrait, but the face gradually becomes disfigured and mocks him. As it turns out, the artist had made several such portraits, but he only sees them as disfigured. Cue this revelation to end the game and start you from the beginning, presumably to paint another hopeless portrait. Gears 5. There's a whole lot going on in Gears 5. Swarm taking over the world, Kate traveling to an abandoned facility and learning her origins, along with that of the Locust, Reyna being revived and becoming the new Swarm Queen, etc., etc. The end sees Reyna attacking New Ephyra and the gang repels her forces with the Hammer of Dawn. Kate vows to find her and seemingly moves on from her Locust-induced trauma. And that's it. This feels more like a setup for the next game than anything meaningfully concluded, to be honest. Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2. After defeating Vader, Starkiller can opt to go with the light or dark side of the Force for different endings. Go with the former and he'll spare Vader, allowing Master Ram Koda to capture him. He's also reunited with Juno and they share a kiss before joining the Rebels and jumping into hyperspace. Unbeknownst to them, Boba Fett is in pursuit. Plot twist? Well, sure if Force Unleashed 3 wasn't cancelled. Either way, this ending was a weak closer. Rainbow Six Vegas 2. Throughout the story, protagonist Bishop and his team are constantly beset by terrorist threats. It turns out that they're the work of Gabriel Noek, an old ally. Eventually, the two stand off and Noek is killed. Bishop is berated, promoted, tells his team to skedaddle, and then cut to the words "the end," followed by the credits. Yes, really, the end. That's it. Are we really led to believe that there's no one else tied to Noak in all of this? Apparently. Deus Ex Mankind Divided. After Adam told Vega to introduce him to Janus, the shadowy leader of the Juggernaut Collective, we then see the Illuminati making plans. That's it. As it turns out, Deus Ex Mankind Divided was split into 2 games. The other half was meant to be a sequel that would close out the trilogy. This was due to the project becoming too large in scope. However, reports later emerged that the sequel had been cancelled so that Square Enix could focus on Marvel's Avengers. When we'll receive answers remains to be seen, so in the meantime, we're left with this stilted ending. Monkey Island 2: LeChuck's Revenge. Part abrupt ending, part cliffhanger, and totally bizarre describes the ending to Monkey Island 2 best. We go from Guybrush and his nemesis LeChuck to an amusement park where the two are children. After being told to leave the tunnels, they join up with their parents as Guybrush wonders what's going on. The eyes of LeChuck, or Chucky, then glow red, with Elaine outside the park wondering if Guybrush is under a spell. Don't count on the curse of Monkey Island to clear things up either. Homefront. The war between the KPA and US Armed Forces culminates in a battle on the Golden Gate Bridge. You gun down enemies, get in the turret of a Humvee, and gun down a few more soldiers and some vehicles. Then Connor, one of your allies, lights a flare and the Air Force bombards the remaining enemy forces, killing him as well. You're then told via radio broadcast that this is a major turning point in the war. The EU Defense Council has scheduled a meeting, blah blah blah, roll credits. Forget the ending. Why didn't Connor just throw the flare? And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.